25%. If you take declining yields at a time of rising population in a region with millions of poor people, you get starvation. So the charge is clear. We have to develop crops, including new inputs to go with them, that can grow in a drought. We have to have crops that can survive a flood, that can resist pests and new diseases. We need higher yields on the same land despite the more difficult weather. And we will never get there without a continuous and urgent science-based search to increase productivity, especially focused on the needs of small farms in the developing world. Right now, we're collaborating with many research partners, including the CJIR and many national programs to boost productivity by breeding new crop varieties. We're not advocates of any particular scientific method. We support a wide range of agricultural techniques. Some of our group grants do include transgenic approaches because we believe they have the potential to address farmers' challenges faster and more efficiently than conventional breeding alone. Of course, these new technologies must be subject to rigorous scientific review to ensure they're safe and effective. It's the responsibility of the governments, farmers, and citizens, informed by great science, to choose the best and safest way to help feed their countries. Certainly, it's essential for Africa to find a maize crop that can get higher yields in a drought. More than 300 million Africans rely on maize as their main food source. When the rains don't come, farmers and their children go hungry. One of our private sector partners is now collaborating with an African foundation, an international crop improvement center, and 5 African countries to develop drought-tolerant maize using both conventional breeding and biotechnology. The technologies will be licensed royalty-free to seed distributors so that the new seeds can be sold to African farmers without extra charge. If the seeds perform well, African farmers can expect to produce 2 million more tons of maize in a year of moderate drought. Of course, for small farmers, too much water can be as devastating as too little. To support farmers in flood-prone areas, and there are millions of them in India and Bangladesh, we're helping develop a rice variety that can survive underwater for over 2 weeks. Crop breeders have long known about a variety of Indian rice that tolerated submergence. In the 1980s, they tried to breed this trait into rice varieties that had high yields. But the combinations always dragged in undesirable traits along with this desirable trait. So the idea hibernated in the minds of crop breeders for 25 years until it was taken up again a few years ago. This time aided by marker-assisted selection, which now has high resolution. So it's a much more precise method of moving a trait from one variety to another. The breeders developed a new rice variety called Swarna Sub-1 and tested it in Bangladesh. A short time after planting, the floods came. When the water receded, only 10% of the normal rice crop was left. But the Sub-1 rice flourished. 95% of it survived. Maize rice can tolerate drought and flood. Maize rice that can tolerate drought and flooding are critical for increasing yields in hostile weather. But we also need to play defense against disease, which can wipe out a crop no matter what the weather is. We're involved in the effort to stop a fast-moving strain of wheat rust that threatens the world's wheat crop. Almost all existing varieties of wheat are susceptible, and our partners at 15 research institutions are using a number of approaches to breed wheat varieties that will offer farmers lasting protection. We need to take full advantage of these emerging technology to develop new crop varieties, and we need to make these seeds available to the small farmers who need them. I hope this debate over productivity will not slow the distribution of these seeds. also hope that the debate does not obscure another critical lesson from the past. Just developing the more productive seeds is just one element of an overall strategy. We take that lesson very seriously. That's why the Foundation's investments are guided by two principles. We focus on small farmers, and we make investments across the value chain. These principles guide every decision we make. We try to see our investments through the eyes of small farmers. Will they lead to a better yield, better soil, a better living, a better income? Our approaches are customized for the diverse crops, diverse climates, and small plots of land. We try to be responsive to the needs of the farmers themselves. And in particular, that includes looking at the expertise of women farmers who do most of the farming in Africa. The second principle about the value chain has a significant impact on where we invest. Because farmers need more than the seeds. They also need new tools. They need the training. They need access to the markets to sell the surplus. And they need strong organizations that can bring them together to represent their interests. The value chain also includes gathering data, publishing results, and supporting countries to develop better agricultural policies. If we're going to get the results, we have to get all these elements right. During the mid-1990s in Ethiopia, the push to increase productivity led to bumper crops in the highlands. But farmers couldn't get the crops to the distant markets. And so local markets had too much food. Prices went down and farmers suffered. While the distant markets had too little food and prices stayed high there and poor people went hungry. Market access can provide the balance. Prices high enough for poor farmers to get a good income and low enough for poor consumers to feed their families. That's one of the driving ideas behind our partnership with the World Food Program. In the past, the world's approach to food aid involved primarily purchasing surplus from rich countries and shipping it to the countries in need. In recent years, some food was also purchased from big traders in poor countries. But now WFP is buying crops from small countries in the same countries where the food will be eaten. They've already purchased 17,000 metric tons of food from small farmers, helping those farmers build the capacity to sell even more to WFP and other buyers in the future. Today we're announcing an evolution of our strategy with 9 new grants of about $120 million to serve small farmers and span the value chain. The package includes funding for legumes that fix nitrogen in the soil, for higher yielding varieties of sorghum and millet, and for new varieties of sweet potatoes that resist pests and have a higher vitamin content. The grants will provide training and resources that African governments can draw on as they regulate biotechnology so they can make science-based decisions customized to local conditions about what advances will best serve farmers, consumers, and the environment. The grants will also assist African governments in developing policies specifically focused on their small farmers. The package will help get information to farmers by radio and cell phone, support school feeding programs supplied from nutritious food from local farms, and help women farmers in India manage their land and water resources sustainably. This illustrates the approach of investing across the value chain in ways that benefit small farmers. If each effort is measured concretely against these goals, it will help keep attention focused on the human impact of the work. It's the best way to de-emphasize the ideological arguments and to focus on the overall impact. In this global movement, it's crucial that everyone